This is our cold water pressure in the kitchen. This is where I fill up water for storage. Those are the things we have to fill up to flush the toilets.
So you can see the sediment from the data center. Wow, and that's just from the water coming out of your faucet.
Yeah. And this is what's in all the pipes.
Just the well itself is probably 20,000, and that's not counting any of the
All
faucets.
the replacement of the fixtures and faucets
just
and
the well.
toilets and the lines that come underneath the house. It's overwhelming because you really feel like you are up against this huge wall that you can't penetrate. There's nothing that you can do, and they don't care.
Soldiers, we have a problem. Now, I've been told that AI is a software revolution. But once we peel back the onion a little bit, the story I'm seeing is totally different. AI is actually a physical parasite. Now, we're sitting here in late 2025. The AI boom is booming. It's officially become and crossed a pretty terrifying threshold because its demand for water has actually exceeded the global demand for bottled water. So AI is actually in stiff competition with the human race for one of the most precious resources we have on this planet. It's essential to life, water. Also, its thirst, AI's thirst for electricity, is threatening to trigger, let's call it a controlled demolition of the American power grid, a power grid that was never set up to be able to handle the demand that AI is putting on it. So we just did a previous episode where Ray Dalio warned about the $100 trillion debt wall that is pretty much pushing us toward a stage 6 reset. But what Dalio didn't say is that the primary weapon that's being used to liquidate the middle class isn't just inflation. It's resource scarcity. So today we're going to take a look at the AI resource war. We're looking at why your 401k, pension, IRA, your savings, your financial future could be funding its own destruction. So we're going to need to take a look at 3 tactical pivots we're going to get to in a minute. You got to consider these here and now in order to protect your financial future as we move into the 2026 cycle. We could be facing major gridlock, not just in electricity, but also in water as well.
Either way, it's clear AI uses a lot of water. But why? Every time you send a prompt to an AI, it has to run complex calculations to understand and respond. This work is done by the most powerful and specialised computer chips in the world, housed inside enormous data centres. Even before users can send prompts, the training process for the models uses the chips to carry out intense work. And all that extra power means the hardware can overheat and become damaged if not cooled properly. Most data centers use air cooling systems, which was fine until AI came along.
But now, because these data centers and the infrastructure that's going in is so much more energy intensive, there are liquid cooling approaches that are now being implemented.
For liquid cooling, the water must be clean to prevent bacteria growing or clogs and corrosion in the system, which means using mostly drinking water. Here's how the most common liquid cooling process works. It begins by piping coolant over the processing chips within the servers. This cooling liquid absorbs the heat and takes it away from the electrics to a heat exchange unit. Water is used to reduce the temperature of the coolant. The coolant then recirculates back to cool the servers. Meanwhile, the now hot water is piped to cooling towers, where a combination of fans and water vapour dissipate the heat, cooling the water. Some of the water evaporates in that process, while the rest is recirculated through the cooling process several times before being discharged back into the nearby water source. Overall, up to 80% of the water evaporates.
Did you ever think we'd be in a situation where we're in competition for water from a machine? To keep a single AI model, Chat GPT 3, cool, during training, it's going to require about 700,000 liters of fresh water, drinkable water. That's enough to fill the tanks of a fleet of fire trucks in places like Virginia and Texas, which are the front lines of the data center war. Now, taps are literally running dry in local communities. We just saw that in the beginning clip of the husband and wife and what's going on at their property because they're 400 yards away from a data center. Jensen Huang, he's the CEO of Nvidia, recently admitted that energy, not chips, is now the primary bottleneck for human progress. But it's not just energy, it's the liquid cooling required to keep the chips from melting, as we just saw in that illustration. So we're seeing a 267% increase in wholesale electricity prices in data center hubs. Now, if you think your utility bill is high now, you wait until you're competing for water and power against $1 trillion AI algorithm. Now, this isn't a green revolution. All the environmentalists, all the greenies out there, they should have a big issue with this, right? But I'm not hearing as much from Al Gore. I'm not hearing as much from the environmentalists like Greta Thunberg when it comes to what's going on in AI. Could it be that the companies behind AI are literally $1 trillion companies and maybe they're paying people to stay quiet? I don't know. But look, suffice it to say, it's not a green revolution. It's a resource heist. It's a resource heist. We're seeing our resources appropriated for $1 trillion companies to promote and push and develop AI. Even the so-called elites, they know the grid as currently constituted cannot handle this load. Elon Musk recently predicted that by 2026, we're going to officially run out of the transformers and electricity needed to power the AI chips currently being manufactured. And he's calling that the biggest supply chain crunch in human history. So let's talk about where the smart money is moving, because one of the things we always want to do on this channel is we want to protect ourselves. We live in a capitalist society. We live in a society where we require money. So we're not going to sit here and just grouse about issues. We're going to see where we can benefit financially as well. So you take Bill Gates. Now, I know there's a lot of polarization around the name Bill Gates, and that's fine, but he's a big money player in all this, and he's betting the farm on nuclear. He's got a company called TerraPower, and they just signed a massive agreement to build what are called small modular reactors, or SMRs. We've talked about those on the channel before. And they're going to build those directly adjacent to the data centers. Now, why are they going to do that? Well, because the AI overlords realize they can't rely on traditional utilities and power grids that were manufactured for humans, okay? 50-year-old coal plants, natural gas plants. We can't rely on those to also come into compete with AI. AI and humanity can't compete. It's going to, like it's doing with the water, it's going to knock us out of the box, okay? So if we're investing in the traditional power company design, we may be in a situation where we're going to be holding a bag that's about to be dropped in favor of newer technologies. Right now, sure, these power companies are seeing profits, pretty much explode because of the AI demand. But once the AI companies take a step back and build out their own power consumption needs and infrastructure, then those traditional companies, what are going to happen to those profits? Now, it'll be great from the standpoint of seeing bills decrease in our homes, right? But if you're an investor in that sector because of AI, then you must understand that SMRs, or small modular reactors, that are not going to be powered by or provided by the electricity company, they're going to be coming into the fore, into play here very soon. All right, so as soldiers of finance, we just don't want to, run around yelling fire, right? We want to actually find a bucket to put the fire out. We want to find an exit. We want to be productive about this whole thing. So the 2026 reset is going to create two classes of investors: those who own the resource and those who paid for it. Now, I'd like to be on both sides of that equation because I need the resources, I need the water, I need the electricity. I don't want to be just on that side that is consuming. I want to be on that investor side as well. So here's a tactical direction you can take a look at. We're going to see a nuclear renaissance. Nuclear is pretty much the only thing that's going to enable the power needs of the mid 21st century to be met. So if you're looking at the small modular reactor space, look deeper into its supply chain. This stuff is not science fiction anymore. Okay, this is a decade-long structural necessity. So companies that are involved in that supply chain, you're going to have to do your due diligence. All right, we don't make investment recommendations here, but we do point out the way the winds are blowing. So you got GE, Hitachi, Westinghouse, Rolls-Royce, SMR, okay, along with Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. BWX Technologies. Those are companies that will be essential in the supply chain to make these SMRs and these nuclear technologies work in the long term. That's number one. Number two, let's talk about the liquid cooling infrastructure. They've got plans for scores more data centers. So that's going to mean not just more electrical infrastructure needs, but also more water. And we've got companies out there like Vertiv, Schneider Electric, Johnson Controls, Emerson, Liquid Stack, Green Revolution Cooling. These are all companies, and there are others that are in that space to develop technologies and to provide technologies that are going to cool these data centers. All right. Now, there's also, as we saw in the beginning, there's a big debate around how this is going to work because there's only so much water to go around, so much drinkable water. These things can't use seawater, right? At least not yet until a new technology is developed. So think about those two areas: the nuclear supply chain for the SMRs, liquid cooling infrastructure, and also forget speculative clean energy. Okay. That solar is only going to work when the sun's out, and you got the windmill 16th century technology. AI needs big time 24/7 power. All right, so this means natural gas, nuclear, yes, coal as well. So those companies that are a part of that S&P energy sector, not this green energy crap, all right, real robust sources, those are going to be the companies that are long-term players and winners in this field. All right, don't implicitly bet that the power grid is going to stay stable or resources will stay cheap. I think that you already have enough empirical evidence to know that that's not the case. So when we looked at Ray Dalio's stage 6 warning, it told us that we're beyond the point of no return. We went over Ferguson's law. We're spending now more on our debt service, the interest on our debt as a country, than we are on our military. So the point of no return is behind us. And when this resource war really hits the mainstream media, and it really hasn't yet, but when it does, we're going to see a melt up end. All right. And everybody better have a seat at that point, because the music will have pretty much stopped in terms of what's going to happen by the time the mainstream media really catches on to what's going on. And at that point, the controlled demolition will begin. So you want your assets future facing, future proofed. So ask yourself, is your wealth tied to a paper promise or a physical reality? Because in 2026, you're not going to be able to eat code, okay? And you can't power a city with a stock certificate. You've got to actually have your investments based in something real and tangible that's going to make this world work well into the 21st century.